Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla, let's go over the market and figure out what is happening with Tesla stock and what we can expect, of course, moving forward into next week and really the rest of July. So with that being said and done, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. And of course, my membership section is live. That link is down below if you're interested. For just $2.99 a month, you get access to all my intraday thoughts, post updates every single day. The market is open, options flow, etc. On Tesla and sometimes other stocks as well. So if that's something that interests you, definitely check it out down below. But let's just jump right into it. Tesla closing the day down about 2.5%, closing at pretty much $178 per share, which of course compared to the market is going to be a bit of an underperformance today. Definitely an underperformance today for Tesla after the shareholder event just yesterday. So we pretty much, honestly, the last 2 days, we pretty much sold off the whole news, if you will, of Elon getting his compensation package. The move to from Delaware to Texas, that whole bundle, if you will, has been essentially a initial buy the news into sell the news right after. So it's very interesting. But yeah, nonetheless, we are at a pretty pivotal moment here, and we're in a pretty important area. So let's talk about that. Let's start off with the daily, actually. Let's start off with the daily. And the first thing I want to talk about is actually the MACD. The MACD on the daily chart ever so slightly flipping bullish, even though we had a red day today. That's not too bad. That's a pretty nice welcome sight, right? On top of that, after that pump that we had off of Elon's, the voting thing that he announced on Twitter, X, whatever, what is this? I think Wednesday night. We obviously sold off the days after that, but, we did enter overbought territory on the daily chart, right? And as we entered the overbought territory, I'm surprised we actually retraced this fast, this quickly, and we sold off this fast. I thought it would at the very least go slower, but nonetheless, we were in overbought territories, and well, we just retraced right back down to the median line once again, and we so far bounced almost absolute perfection off of it, as you can see right over here at around that 177-ish dollars per share. Pretty much almost to perfection. You really just can't go wrong with this indicator. Sometimes it feels like it really is that good sometimes. Not perfect, of course. There are times, for instance, like Apple, that you can see just completely held to the top side and only came back to retest that way over here. So if you were to wait it from back here, you would have technically still been down roughly, assuming you were shorting it or whatever. So it's not perfect, right? There are times where it just hugs the top side pretty aggressively, like NVIDIA, you can see over here. So like I said, not perfect, but on Tesla, it's been pretty damn good so far. But nonetheless, we did come back down to a pretty important level, like I mentioned, right? As you can see, as I remove this indicator, right? We came back down to, well, an area that was obviously a massive resistance before, right? Around this kind of 179-ish range. Now, we did close a little bit below that I would have liked to see. I definitely would have liked to see at least 178 is not atrocious, but 179, 180 would have been more ideal for sure, because it would have made this area, as we come back down into it and essentially, or at least in theory, try to turn an old resistance into a new support. It would have looked more convincing. Honestly, it definitely would have looked more convincing if we closed above 179 at least. So that's, not the worst close in the world, but definitely not the best close in the world either. So it really kind of comes down to Monday to see if we can get a green Monday. Honestly, I want to see a green Monday. I want to see us push off of this, in theory, demand zone that, again, essentially, all the resistance turns support. And I want to see this turn into that. And I want to see a bounce from this area, right? I definitely want to see that going into next week. That is going to be my main focus to see if that happens or not. You can argue even the fact that, this breakout that we had, this trend line, if you will, if I zoom out, right, that we kept getting rejected by over and over and over. You can even argue the fact that maybe, maybe this is more or less a retest, right? Maybe we came down here and you can argue this is retest. Maybe Monday we bleed a little bit lower to 175 and then bounce from there pretty aggressively, I would hope. If we do go lower, I definitely want to see a pretty aggressive bounce pretty quickly off of that as well, as we maybe retest this trend line breakout as well. Pretty common things to do here, right, as you get these kind of breakouts into a retest. Just the retest came pretty damn quickly. I'm a little bit surprised about that one. But with that being said, yesterday, we did mention how, there is a very real possibility we do come down a little bit lower, right? Back when we closed yesterday, I think we closed yesterday at what, like 182.5 roughly, right? We did get a morning pump initially, and then we sold it off pretty aggressively, and we just slowly bled throughout the day. But yesterday, we did mention that, moving down a little bit lower wouldn't be completely out of the question. Why? Well, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, we have the gap fill, which we did gap fill, which is good. We had this gap from the Wednesday close into the Thursday open, right? We had this massive gap, which did close today, almost to perfection, which is good to see. So that gap is officially closed. It is kind of acting as a support so far. Not, again, super convincing, but technically it is still. It's like one of those things where it's like, innocent until proven guilty. So in this case, well, support until proven otherwise. And in this case, at least so far, it's proven to be a support. So that's a good sign regardless, even though it could have been more convincing. The next thing to look at is, of course, going to be, well, this Fibonacci retracement. If we take it from that swing low to that swing high in the 1 hour chart over here, back when we were at 167 over here to that recent rally that we had to about 191, right? We had this little bit of a sell-off, right? With this sell-off, we talked about yesterday, right? The first level to look out for was that 0.5 Fibonacci level, which is about 179-ish. Obviously, we are a little bit below that, but we talked about how if we do go below that, we have that 618 level just slightly below that, sitting at about 177 roughly. And that's roughly where we went to, right? You can see here, we went to pretty much that almost perfectly. Again, my Fibonacci here isn't drawn to perfection, just a rough outline, right? It's not absolute perfection, but it gives a good enough idea. The fact that we came to that 618 level, we did bounce off of it, and so far we're holding that general level. So that's a nice thing to see. But again, if there is a place to bounce, if there is a place to really find that support and really make our way back up and start this, bullish reversal continuation, I guess it's not really a reversal, it's more of a bullish continuation. This is more of just like a retest. Sooner than later is what I'd want to see. I definitely don't want to see too much more pressure to the downside. And if we do, like I said, to 175 to truly retest this trend line breakout, right, which again would put us somewhere around 175, let's say Monday, I definitely want to see a quick bounce from that general area. And I want to see that intraday bounce and support to really kick in and to really push us up intraday back up above, at the very least, today's close on Monday. So that is what I would be looking for on a Monday moving forward. But now, assuming this all holds true, assuming this is just a simple breakout retest and now we continue upwards, well, where do we go? I still believe June, maybe July. I really wouldn't think it's out of the question to get up to about $200 to $205 per share. That really wouldn't be out of the question. And I do think that it's a very real possibility, assuming this area doesn't really, fail the bulls, if you will, and the bears don't really just completely and utterly take over. Assuming this plays out the way it should, in theory, I do believe that, this area up here, 205 to $200 roughly, is a very real possibility sometime in June, maybe July. And that's kind of what I'll be waiting on, right? But again, like I said, the MACD still flip bullish on the daily, just barely just now. RSI still looking pretty decent, honestly. Stochastic still flip bullish. So like the momentum is still in theory on Tesla's side, right? We have that 100-day moving average that we closed pretty much right at it, right? It was acting as a massive resistance all these other times, but we did close pretty much, arguably below it, but roughly at it right now. So definitely want to be turning that into a support. Don't want to go too much lower. 21 EMA acting as a support here as well. You can see the market bias turned back to green and in theory acting as a support. So again, Tesla still looks bullish. Tesla does look like it still wants to make a rally back up to about $200 per share. It's just this area that we're in right now. We need to make sure we hold it. The bulls have to really step in around this area and really hold it, right? We still have the green flipped over the red, you can see here, which is that 5 flipping over the 13 EMA, which is good. Momentum is still technically bullish in that sense. So again, a lot of signs are still pointing that Tesla's bullish. It's just a matter of, do the bulls step in and really, bring this bad boy back up when it really matters, which is pretty much more or less right here, right now, Monday/Tuesday. Looking at the weekly chart, let's take away the drawings for now, right? The weekly chart is looking okay, right? We're still holding this nice little volume profile. You can still argue the fact that we're making this kind of like, this sort of like a bullish, maybe we almost broke out of it, right? We can argue the fact that we're making this little bullish triangle right here, bullish wedge. If you really make the argument, right, you can see these green lines making that little bit of a bullish wedge. That is a possibility, right? But nonetheless, we are holding this general volume profile over here, which is nice to see. We are closing this week higher ever so slightly than last week, though we are printing pretty much 4 dojis in a row, showing quite a lot of indecision. But if you were to look at this from just a technical standpoint, it really just looks like a bull flag as it's getting tighter and tighter and tighter, and a bigger move is about to explode. Doesn't mean it has to be to the upside, but in my opinion, especially on this nice day or week rather, which is technically still a green week, which still technically did close higher than last week, it is, you can see, on elevated volume relative to the last 2 weeks. So potentially signaling that there is some buying pressure really stepping in kind of behind the scenes, if you will. So again, in my opinion, a lot of signs still pointing up to Tesla moving to the upside. It doesn't mean it absolutely has to, but if you were to be a probability person, in my opinion, the probabilities are in favor of the bulls for Tesla as of right now, assuming we hold those areas that I mentioned come next week, really early next week probably as well. So that'd be the most important thing to look out for as well. In terms of options flow, let's go over to the options being bought first. Let me double check it to remember. I don't think anything too crazy came in. We had a 1.16 million call come in here, July 19th, 180 call. Not too bad, right? Pretty decent as well, right? Not too far out of the money. I mean, almost at the money, honestly. But July 19th isn't too far out from here. It's only about a month away, so not bad. Pretty good to see that. I like to see that, right? But in terms of calls sold, this was interesting. There's a lot of calls sold, and then one pretty important put sell. So we had one put sell, 1.3 million. You can see here, right, for 180 strike for next week. So this whale clearly thinks Tesla will be pretty much around, if not higher than 180 next week. Cool. By Friday. But other than that, we did have a 2.5 million over here call sell, 190 strike, 2 years out almost. Well, I guess a year and a half. January 16th, 2026. So that's a little bit, makes you kind of raise your eyebrows a little bit, makes you kind of wonder. But, to be fair, they're getting paid a hefty price for it, $50 per contract essentially, right? Or not contract, per, you know what I mean? You know how these work, right? But nonetheless, so essentially what you do is add that 50 to that 190, which essentially equals to 240. So as long as Tesla pretty much remains below 240 by 2026, which would be a little disappointing, but if it does, then this whale does win on that technically, regardless of what happens in between that. So essentially, as long as Tesla is below 240 and above, 140, this whale wins. So as long as it's within that range, pretty much by that time, or unless they close that earlier, this whale wins, plain and simple. This whale just simply wins on that. So that's could be what they're betting. Maybe they're betting that Tesla's going to be range bound for like another year, somewhere between this kind of, mid 150s, 160s to as high as 230s, 240s. And that seems like what the whale's betting on. And there was another one that came in, it's kind of similar to that. Let me go ahead and see if I can find it. It was a pretty large one. Where is it? It was like 4 million. I don't know. Let me sort this by premium. Maybe I'll find it like this easier. Or it's just going to refresh the whole thing. Let me go back to it quickly. Give me a second here, ladies and gentlemen. Go ahead and find this. Ooh, that's interesting. 3.9 million. Did I not show this here? 3.9 million. Did it not show that here? It didn't show that here. Interesting. So we'll take a look at that after, actually, because it's showing it on Cheddar Flow, but it's not showing it on Blackbox, which is interesting. Let me go ahead and sort this by the premium, and we'll go like this. 4.6, here it is. 4.6 million premium came in, 150 strike, January 17th, 2025 this time, however. But same idea. It seems like another whale is betting on that Tesla is going to be sitting at a much more range-bound price. Again, if you combine this, let's just assume it's $50 to make it simple. They don't think it'll be much higher than $200 by pretty much half a year out from now. We'll see if that's the case or not, but that's kind of what they're betting on, it seems like. So we'll see. But nonetheless, let's take a look at that quick options flow that came in. It didn't show that on Blockbox, interestingly enough. So let's take a look at it over here. 3.9 came in here for, never mind. Oh, it's for next week. For next week, 3.9 million came in. It came in at 11.43. So actually, they could have already taken profit on this. You never know, right? It did come in at the spot of 178.14. So maybe when Tesla did go down even lower to, what was the lowest price today? Tesla did go down to about 177. Maybe they took quick profit on that, or maybe they're expecting an even further decline next week. We'll see how that actually happens. But something to note, 3.9 million weekly call, or put rather, came in for next week, obviously, 180 strike. Whether or not they're still in it is still the question, but food for thought. Maybe they expect a little bit more of a move to the downside on Monday. Maybe we do come down to that 175 on Monday. They take profit, and then we most likely skyrocket from there. That is a possibility. But with that being said and done, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have for you for this week, for this day. And next week will be a fresh week. We'll see how we react. Again, I still think there's a lot more signs pointing to upside than downside for Tesla. And if we do get any more downside, hopefully not. But if we do, I definitely want to see, like 175. I definitely want to see a very quick snap and then back up really quickly. Just quick drop, and then we spike back up. Maybe take out some stop losses, and then we spike back up pretty damn quickly. That's what I would like to see if it were to happen. But yeah, anyways, thanks so much for watching. And as usual, I'll see you on the next one. Peace.